You know, if I could afford one, I would go for like a hybrid or maybe even an electric one. I'm not in that price range yet where I can afford that. Although, like that blue Chevy Cruze that I had, I had that thing nearly paid off. I only had like $600 left on it, but it already had 150,000 miles on it over. So
Wow.
it's like I think I'm gonna, because I have to buy used ones. Yeah, it's just it's just the price range that I'm in. But this is the first one I've ever gotten that like doesn't have 100,000 on it before I've gotten it. It's only at like 80,000. So I'm like, oh wow, yeah, I was surprised because it's almost over 15,000 like price wise. So I didn't think I'd be able to get a loan where the monthly options were in my favor. But apparently I underestimated myself because
right, I'm gonna check out of this for a minute. You guys keep talking. I'm gonna listen to the Dream Thief.
Okay.
I kind of underestimated the payment stuff for it because I never missed a payment on that cruise. Every time, only twice did I ever have to use the 15-day grace period, and that was by sheer accident.
Yeah,
but,
that's cool. Congratulations.
And that boosted up my credit score by 160 points. So
nice.
That like
okay.
the capital.
Good news, bad news. Good news is we can hear you. Bad news is your audio is terrible. Like you are crackling and popping all over the place.
Damn it. Well, I was using my wireless headset because I was just wanting to see if it would sound better, but I will plug in the Turtle Beach and use that one, and hopefully it's not as quiet.
Yeah, it's worse. So you sound. It's like last time you recorded, you were popping in my headset like the whole night, but Matt couldn't hear it. And now you sound fine, but the stream, your audio is messed up. Fuck audio is the short version of this.
Yes.
None of this is my fault, guys. I'm just letting you know. None of it is my fault.
It's Matt's shitty PS4 that is ruining this for everyone.
100%.
I would like to get a PS5 just so I can stream these. Have the option to stream them like unlisted or private, and to have higher quality video. But
Ronan, let me know when you're switched over.
have any loot cases? I do not.
Alright, I have my Turtle Beach on. Can you hear?
Yep,
Yes,
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Start talking, and I'm gonna mute myself and go listen.
Alrighty. Try and get this mic in a good position. I need to work out the microphone issue as to why it is that I sound so quiet.
I feel like that was a issue with Steve as well at one point, where he had to jack up the volume of his audio in game or something. I don't know. What's the last?
His own audio.
What's the last bad food experience you've had, Ronan?
Bad food experience? Well, I suppose I don't want to. It's not a super bad experience, but I'll throw in today. We went out for lunch because I had to work today too, on top of everything else. So we went to McDonald's, and John was hyping up the mango freeze that they have. And I was like, oh, I hate mango, but I'll try. But you know what? That strawberry watermelon sounds good, and it's a hot, crummy day. It's humid. I'm going to go for that. And it was very much like drinking ice that had mild red dye number 7 flavor.
Test.
Can we all be heard? We're leaving this in your capable hands, Steve.
Okay, I think we're good. I didn't hear anything you said because I took my headset off to listen to my computer, so I'm assuming it was riveting.
Okay.
Everyone seems okay?
Alright.
I mean, don't leave this up to me. I'm not in charge of this.
Hey, all I'm doing is streaming it, so as long as you can hear everybody on the live
I didn't
stream.
actually pay attention to Matt's voice in this, so Matt, you keep talking for a minute.
Okay, so my name is Matthew, and I am one of the co-hosts of Two Matts, One Steve. We are going to re-record this because Ronan fucked up the last one. I have forgotten everything about Doctor Strange 2, the Multiverse of
Ronan,
Madness.
you keep talking now.
Yeah, I don't want to hear any of that. This is my fault nonsense, okay? This is Sony's fault. This is Sony's fault.
I think it's totally your fault.
No.
And I'm going to blame you when the show starts. We lost, 3 hours of conversation?
Yeah,
all because of you.
and we'll probably end up, because now all the in-depth discussion points are all gone. We can probably, we'll knock this all out in 15 minutes.
Most likely.
And be like, yeah, well, because when I was
I can hear everyone.
Yeah, when I was
okay. So let's get into a game.
Yeah, when I was in the chat saying we can probably get both of these topics done in an hour now. That's kind of, just going to insinuate maybe we should add something else, but
we can talk about the fact that every basically NPC in the MCU seems dead inside and doesn't react to anything.
Yeah, I also think would be an interesting topic especially for Doctor Strange 2 is the further we've gotten from watching it, has your view of the film changed at all? Has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse, etc.? So I'll throw that in there somewhere.
That's fair. That happens
Do you want me to record on my end as well, just in case?
Yeah, it's probably a good idea to have a backup recording.
I'll try to keep track of time, but I will at some point just have to tell you guys to pause and let me close the recording and start a new one.
I'm sure we can get this done in under an hour for the Doctor Strange one, I'm sure, but we'll see.
What do you want the buy-in to be?
I don't care. I'm rich.
20K.
I'm rich, bitch.
20K. Every single time we play this, you're like, how much do you want the buy-in to be? And then it just keeps going up like 10,000 every single time we play it. Okay. Alright.
I mean, we're still going to get assholes in here who just go all in every time.
Yeah.
And we gotta lay our dick on the table. And, beat... Alright, so... What are we starting with? What movie? What show?
Doctor Strange, probably.
Alright, do you want Casino or Diamond Suite?
Diamond Suite.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Diamond Suite it is. Going.
I'll have to post this episode real quick because we're missing our Doctor Strange 2 window of people caring.
But that juice, that sweet SEO juice.
Yes. Okay, I'm just gonna roll into it. 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Two Matts, One Steve. My name is Matt. Joining me down in Tennessee is the other Matt.
Yes, it is I. Also known as Ronan.
Ronan, yes. And here in Lincoln with myself is Steve.
Yep, I'm just thankful we didn't name this one Steve, one Matt, one Ronan, because that would be ridiculous.
Yes, it would. Now, we are re-recording. This is the second time we've attempted to record our Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness review / discussion. We actually had... I want to say like a 2-hour discussion on this movie a couple weeks ago. And then, Steve, what happened to it?
We discovered that Ronan did not turn on the setting that allowed his voice to be recorded.
The obscure setting in the PlayStation?
I'm assuming that Matt got a video that was basically, Matt, talk, and Steve, talk. Ronan, what are your opinions?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Wow, what an incredible in-depth discussion, Ronan. You really nailed those points.
Yes, that's exactly what happened, because I was putting it all together. I'm like, wait a minute, how come I can't hear Ronan talking at all? And then I also checked our Moon Knight one, and the same thing happened, because we recorded both of them on the same day. So yeah, Ronan fucked everything up, everybody. So you can blame him when we don't have that sort of deep insight that we had 2-3 weeks ago, because I've lost it all.
This is not my fault. This is the fault of Sony Entertainment Corporation for putting that option in here and defaulting it to off. I blame them.
So tonight we are going to try to recapture the magic of all of the insightful, in-depth, detailed knowledge that we were dropping on that lost episode of Two Matts, One Steve, and we'll try to
throw
sort
that
of
into the Patreon.
Yeah, we'll try to get it back a little bit. So I'm going to throw it over to Steve. Now, tell us a little bit about Doctor Strange 2 and the Multiverse of Madness. Give the listeners just a quick high-level synopsis. What is this movie all about?
This movie introduces a new character named America Chavez, who has the ability to basically punch holes in space-time and travel to other universes under her own power.
It's a
not
cool power, by the way.
It is a cool power. And I like the visual effect of all of the portals are shaped like a star. We don't really know much about her, where she came from, where the powers came from. I want to say she's a mutant, but I don't believe she's in the comics. Regardless, she is being chased by monsters that want her powers. She ends up in the main MCU universe, where she connects with Doctor Strange, and he begins to protect her from these monsters, who it turns out are being led by Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, who has now gone completely crazy after getting through her shenanigans in WandaVision and reading the Darkhold, which is pretty much the MCU Necronomicon. She wants to steal America's powers so that she can find a universe out there where she can have her kids back. She wants to basically kill and replace the Wanda of another universe and just assume the mommy role.
You know, as I was thinking about this, and one of the things that we're going to get into on this episode is when we recorded the last one, it was pretty soon right after we had all watched the film. And this is we're going a few weeks after we've watched it, and how has our stuff sort of changed, our thought process changed on the film. And I guess one of the questions I have is, why can't Wanda just recreate her kids again, like in the real world? Like she has the power to manipulate reality, so how come she can't just create the kids, sort of like she did in WandaVision, but make them actually real? Does her power not extend that far?
I mean, I didn't watch WandaVision, but it seems like for her to just create a being from scratch, it has to exist in this hex thing. So, I mean, I guess you could create a new hex and, not enslave people to be bit players in it. But
yeah, like, why wouldn't she just do that?
I guess she could.
I guess there's no movie then.
Yeah, there's no movie then, and, she's possessed by, influenced by the Necronomicon.
That's often the case.
That would be a fun discussion one day. Like, what are the quickest and fastest ways you could solve a movie's problems?
Yes. That would be a cool topic. Ronan.
Jaws. Don't go in the water.
Don't go in the water. Ronan, give us your review of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. What'd you think?
I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I wasn't at the point where I was like, oh man, this movie's really, really good. But I wasn't in love with the movie, but I really enjoyed it. So that's more than I can say for other kind of Marvel movies. Like, I remember seeing Black Widow. I'm messaging Steve like, yeah, that movie was really good. I really enjoyed that. And like a day later, I couldn't tell you what happened in that movie. I can still remember things in Doctor Strange. So it holds that much. It's still like it's still to that extent it still holds up.
Okay, Steve, what did you think of the movie?
I loved it. I went into this completely blind. I had no actual interest in seeing it until I heard rumors that the X-Men were going to be introduced to the MCU through this movie. And because of that, I decided, I'm going to go see it, but I still went in blind, didn't watch the trailer, had no expectations. I just wanted to see X-Men. Kind of got what I wanted, kind of didn't, but I was blown away by how much I enjoyed this movie. I think after I saw it, I went into our Discord and said, I don't think I have any legitimate criticisms about this movie. Like, I could nitpick it if I wanted to, but criticisms that actually hold up to any scrutiny, don't have any. Still don't have any. My opinion of the movie hasn't changed in the 2 weeks the movie's been out now.
Okay, interesting. Ronan, has your opinion of the movie changed at all, good or bad?
It's still the same. Yeah, it hasn't really fallen. It hasn't fallen down at all. I haven't heard any argument that kind of swayed me to say this movie is shit. No, it's still this fucking cocksucker. This fucking cocksucker right here. Twice in a row. He's going to be that guy. He's going to keep doing it.
Yeah. See, I had 7-2 offsuit on the last hand, but I was like, it doesn't count. I don't need to put all in against this guy because I think he's just going to do this constantly.
I'm gonna try it. Ooh, I'm gonna see what happens here.
Okay. I'm sort of in the same boat with you guys. I don't feel like my opinion of the film has changed. I really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm a huge Sam Raimi fan, so it was great to be able to see a ton of, Sam Raimi isms in this film. I will say that sort of like Spider-Man No Way Home, it's like after that initial wow, that was awesome, and then you start seeing people post things on the internet to saying like, hey, this could, for example, we'll go ahead and spoil everything about this movie on the show, so just FYI.
They've had 3 weeks.
But yeah, the Reed Richards thing, right? So Reed Richards, they introduce him as the smartest man in the world, and then there's a meme going around where why would Reed Richards tell Wanda Black Bolt's power when Black Bolt could have just immediately killed her right then and there? And when I'm watching the movie, I don't think about that kind of stuff because I'm just kind of like into the movie. I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. But then when you stop and sort of think about it, you're like, well, wait a minute. They do sort of you can't have the quote unquote smartest man in the world do something that stupid. And I saw an interesting discussion online where there was an individual who, oh God, what was the character? There was another recent Marvel character that was introduced in a film that people had really wanted to see, and they were just introduced in a really poorly way because they're like, why is this person stupid? And the argument was, Mr. Fantastic is somebody that people have wanted to see, and the very first introduction that MCU fans had of Mr. Fantastic, he's a complete idiot. He's stupid.
Wait, so I have not heard this. I can see the logic behind this criticism, but this criticism itself seems incredibly stupid to me. Are you telling me that you want your superheroes to just immediately kill every person that gets in front of them that is a threat?
No.
Are you asking for your superhero to not be a superhero?
It's not about necessarily killing every single person in front. It's about the portray. And I wish I could remember what the other superhero was. I want to say it was one of them on one of the TV shows. Oh, maybe it was like Kingpin or something. Like how Kingpin is introduced in the MCU is completely different than the Netflix one, and it's just like he's a fool. He gets beat up by like a 15-year-old girl, and he doesn't come across as threatening. He doesn't come across as what he did in the Netflix Daredevil show. And in this case, you literally have Mr. Fantastic is stated in the film he's the smartest man in the world, and he gets Black Bolt killed. He tells Wanda what Black Bolt's power is. Black Bolt can kill you with just by saying your name or whatever, and then Wanda kills Black Bolt. And people are like, the very first introduction they've gotten to Mr. Fantastic in the MCU, he's not the smartest man in the world. He does the stupidest thing possible that gets the people around him killed and murdered. So that's why people are upset.
I have to put a little bit of a check on this. This seems more like it's like everything wrong with the movie and 30 I forget the name of that YouTube channel where it just makes constant little snarky comments on anything bad, like what's stupid in the movie, and you get a little counter there. But a lot of his stuff is also just really stupid, nitpicky things. This isn't so much Reed Richards being a stupid fool. This is an interpretation of Reed, which is also true in certain versions of the comic, where he's just got more of that ego. And also, he's also probably just assuming that Wanda already knows who Black Bolt is and doesn't realize that there's no Black Bolt yet. in the current MCU. I mean, it's a funny meme because I've seen a meme where where it's Reed Richards saying, "Don't worry, Black Bolt knows exactly how to find your kids. Tell her."
Yeah. And I think that it's the context that matters here, right? Wanda is literally because earlier in the film when Doctor Strange first meets the Illuminati, and it's Mr. Fantastic said, "We're not worried about Wanda at all. We're not worried about her," and it's just a portrayal that because people are really passionate about the Fantastic Four. Me personally, I thought the Fantastic Four always sucked. I thought
are they really though? I like the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, Steve is Pat. He likes the Fantastic Four. I think the Fantastic Four have always been a garbage team. That's just me.
I understand they're Marvel's first family, but Marvel went a significant time where they didn't even publish a Fantastic Four book.
Well, that's because Fox owned the rights.
Yeah,
and they
didn't want to support other studios' movies.
Yeah, but to me, I've never been interested in the Fantastic Four. I don't care about Reed Richards. Wow, he's got stretchy powers. Wonderful. Now, I do love Doctor Doom and all that. I love the interplay between Reed Richards and Doctor Doom and all that stuff. But it's Thing I think is stupid. I've got a Hulk. Who cares about Thing? Yeah, Invisible Woman. Wow, great, cool. You can go invisible and you can make force fields. Blah blah. Human Torch. Wow, I don't really care. So to me, it's not a big deal if Reed Richards says something incredibly stupid after he's watched Wanda murder every single person in this base and is just killing everybody. I would think at that point...
She murdered a bunch of nameless people. I completely disagree with this criticism.
Think about what's happening here. The Illuminati, their entire point is to prevent. They are the people that make the hard decisions, right? In the comics, the Illuminati are the ones that say, "We're going to fucking kill this person. We are going to kill them. That's what we're going to do."
I fucking hate him.
Now, in the film, if the film is accurately portraying the Illuminati and they mention they kill their world's Doctor Strange or whatever, they make the hard decision. They've already set up that the Illuminati are the ones that kill people. They just do it when it's for the greater good. And they're going to kill our Doctor Strange for the greater good. And you're going to tell me that suddenly, Wanda shows up and she's wrecking shop and she's threatening to murder everybody, and they're like, "No, I'm the hero. I'm the good guy, Reed Richards. Where I'm not going to do that." No, that character in that situation would have told Black Bolt to just eliminate her immediately, and he didn't. And people are mad about that.
I completely disagree. I think they set this Illuminati up as ultra cocky because they were able to defeat Thanos, presumably without any sort of snap. They just didn't trust this Doctor Strange because their Doctor Strange was bad, and they simply underestimated Wanda and they paid the price. No, this criticism is stupid.
It also tracks in the comic. I can think of at least one instance where, the Illuminati, the actual canonical, not in some else world like Marvel Zombies or something like that, canonical Illuminati, their arrogance royally fucked them in the long run. And that was when they sent Hulk off the planet, because they decided that the Hulk was too uncontrollable, too wild, and they couldn't risk keeping him on Earth anymore. So they decided that they were going to send the Hulk off to another world that wasn't inhabited by anything, by any high-tech society where Hulk could just eat deer and shit like that all fucking day, and he ends up on Sakaar and turns into a gladiator, comes back to Earth, rains royal fucking hell on New York City, and crushes, not literally crushes, but beats down every single member of the Illuminati that he can get his hands on.
Except Namor, because Namor did not vote for him to be sent off.
Yeah, them making stupid decisions that get them killed or get them beat up early. This tracks comic book wise. So no, this is just people nitpicking.
It tracks with the movie too because they are set up.
Oh shit! What am I doing? I wasn't paying attention.
Get him. It tracks with the movie as well because this Illuminati is built up to be, they've got a history of overcoming everything. they weren't. I mean, they did something incredibly stupid, but not because they themselves are idiots. They simply underestimated this threat.
Oh yes. Hold on.
For once, Matt, I'm glad this is happening because this cocksucker has busted out Steve and I.
Yes, got it. Got it.
Good. Fuck him.
Got him.
Fuck him, Matt. You go and you fuck him right in the cornhole.
TLDR, that is a stupid criticism.
Okay, that's interesting. I don't necessarily think it's stupid. I think that the argument from people is they didn't want their first experience of Mr. Fantastic to be him being stupid. They wanted him to be, the classic Mr. Fantastic, and I can understand why someone would be disappointed, but that's the version that they got.
My understanding of Fantastic Four canonical Reed Richards is that, this motherfucker's doing it again, is that, his cockiness of being as smart as he is and just being aloof and not in touch
ruins his judgment.
Yeah, more than once. So that tracks for Reed Richards, and I can also think of an Elseworld situation where it did, because he's the one who allowed the Marvel Zombie thing to happen in that universe. That's directly his fault.
Yeah, and I'm no expert on Mr. Fantastic by any means, because I didn't read those comics and I don't really care about the Fantastic Four, but my impression from reading comics in the 80s and the early 90s, I mean, maybe this is a more recent change to Mr. Fantastic's character, but back then that certainly was not the way that he was really portrayed in the comics. It was Dr. Doom who was the one that was, I'm smarter than Reed Richards and I can do this, and and Reed Richards was always the one that was hey, the more humble brag, outsmarting Dr. Doom with his intelligence. So this could be a more recent change to the character, and maybe these are people who want to see the classic Fantastic Four, where Reed Richards isn't this cocky, arrogant asshole, because generally that is Dr. Doom's thing. Dr. Doom is the one, his greatest mortal enemy is the one that's the cocky, arrogant asshole type. But yeah, it's interesting. I can see how someone would be a little upset if they were really waiting to see Mr. Fantastic for the first time and they had no idea, because that's the thing, no one really knew Mr. Fantastic was going to be in this. So if you go to this movie and you're like, man, I can't wait, that Marvel's making a Fantastic Four movie, it's great, and then this is your introduction to Mr. Fantastic, I could see being a little oh, well, man, I wish that was a little better. They couldn't give me something better than that.
I don't agree with that either.
This is a generation of... Go ahead.
It doesn't seem like I'm going to judge everything that Marvel does with this character in the future based off of what is essentially a cameo.
Yeah, no. This is from a generation of people who have watched your movie sucks and shit like that, and now they think that they're smart, when really they're not.
Okay, so this we're getting way far off course of Doctor Strange too, everybody, but that's fine. I think this conversation is more interesting. So let's say, okay, so Steve, you're really excited for the X-Men to come into the MCU. So what could Marvel do in a future film? Let's say Wolverine, right? We're all very excited to see Wolverine in
I'm
the
actually
MCU.
Not.
Okay, what character, Steve, are you excited to see introduced of the X-Men?
I want a badass Cyclops.
Okay, so Cyclops comes into the MCU in, let's say, whatever random non-X-Men movie, and he shows up a cameo, right? And it is not a badass Cyclops. He's just a total sort of pussy or does something incredibly stupid. Are you saying you would not feel a little bit, disappointed and or butthurt? Because I feel like you'd be saying they fucked up Cyclops. That's not Cyclops, and they screwed it up.
But there's context you're missing here, which is, is this a Cyclops from what is essentially a disposable universe that we're never going to see again? Or is it Cyclops that is actually going to continue to be in the MCU? If it was, a Cyclops from an alternate universe that does something stupid, but the MCU is never going to go back to that universe again, what do I care?
Okay, so that's interesting. So this
And
gets
there's
to your
no
topic.
guarantee that Reed Richards at the Fantastic, is there an actual Fantastic Four movie in the docket? Because at this
Yes.
point, I'm not even sure if
Yeah,
there's...
they're making one. They just lost the director, though. John Watts left.
This Reed Richards that did something that other people are calling stupid isn't even the Reed Richards that you're going to get in the rest of the MCU. I think this would be a more valid criticism if this was the official main Reed Richards that will exist with the MCU. Of course, they weren't going to kill him if that happened. But if he's introduced then and does something that people think is incredibly stupid, I can buy that. I still don't think this scenario fits. I think Reed Richards
what about
total sense here.
Our main universe, right? So one of the big criticisms with No Way Home is people who really love Doctor Strange were like, Doctor Strange would never do this. This is incredibly stupid.
Totally do this.
He's like, this is incredibly stupid. Doctor Strange would not just make this spell up randomly, kind of like a random thing, and cause all these problems. Do we get to a point where we can't criticize anything that these writers show these quote-unquote heroes as doing? Because I feel like it's almost like, well, you know, we have expectations, right? We expect heroes to sort of do the right thing in most situations, but it feels like a lot of these movies are relying on the heroes doing incredibly stupid things. Like a big criticism of Spider-Man, right, is Spider-Man always fucks everything up. Like everything he does, it just screws everything up even worse. I think even my fiance mentioned that, as like Spider-Man just fucks it all. Or the Flash, right? If you watch the Flash television show, the Flash is a hero.
The main example of this.
The Flash is a hero, but he constantly does stupid things that makes everything worse and just fucks everything up. So at what point do we stop giving a pass to, you know, our heroes being dumb in order to service a story that the writer wants to do? Can we have heroes that always make the right choice, but still like have to, what am I trying to say? Like stop the bad, like you, to your point, Steve, of like the villain is smarter than the hero, right? It's nothing that the hero did wrong. It's just that the villain is superior to the hero in a lot of ways, and the hero must overcome absent their own stupid things. Ronan, what do you think of that?
More like a...
Okay, Steve, what do you think?
You weren't paying attention.
No, I was paying attention. I'm just trying to think of like the best way.
Yeah, it's hard for me to explain what I'm trying to just do.
Because
criticism is, you know, valid. If you think this superhero did an incredibly stupid thing, and that stupid thing is not justified, which is kind of the caveat for me. Do I want to go all in again? I shouldn't, right? That's stupid. Throwing this way.
What do you have? Just tell us.
I had a king. Anyways, if the hero is doing something stupid and it's not justified, then that would be a breaking point. But I think a hero can do something stupid, and if it makes sense for that character, even if we as viewers realize this is the wrong move, don't do it, but within the world you understand why the hero is doing it.
So in No Way Home, Peter Parker goes to Doctor Strange and he's like, "Can you do this?" And Doctor Strange says, "No, that's stupid. You know, I'm not going to help you get into college and do all this stuff. I'm not going to do it." And then Peter Parker goes back to him again. And then Doctor Strange decides, "Okay, fine, I'm going to do this." Is that justified? Like, is anything that Doctor Strange did in No Way Home justified?
All right,
really justified?
It's stupid, but it makes sense for these incredibly egotistical characters.
But you could use the ego excuse for every hero, single one.
The first Doctor Strange movie absolutely sets up that he would totally fuck around with this shit. That's the whole reason, like, that's even validated in Endgame, where he uses the time stone again to, like, you know, look forward. He's totally, like, this, like, fucking around with dark arts or just sacrificing people is totally in character for him, especially if you know about the comic book Infinity War, and how, like, him and the Silver Surfer and Adam Warlock just use half of the MCU as pawns. Like when they were fighting Thanos. This totally checks for Doctor Strange. And as for Peter Parker fucking things up, he is a fucking child. And if I'm not mistaken, that was his big selling point, is that he's a relatable guy. He was a kid who was given superpowers, who tries to do the right thing, but messes up frequently.
Like, the difference between Doctor Strange and, I guess to a lesser extent here, Mr. Fantastic compared to The Flash is Barry Allen in The Flash has now had 8 years to learn lessons from his failures, which he hasn't. This is Doctor Strange's, like, 3rd or 4th appearance. Now, if we get a Doctor Strange 5 and he's still doing this shit, yeah, that's a problem. But right now, Doctor Strange being incredibly egotistical and overestimating his own abilities actually makes sense.
But I think that my argument, and again, I point out, like, I don't find any of this stuff to be too detrimental to my viewing experience. I understand going into a comic book movie, there's going to be some goofy stuff that logically wouldn't make a ton of sense. I just want to go for the entertainment value of it and get to see all this stuff. But someone could argue, well, wait a minute. Tony Stark and Iron Man was in a million fucking movies, and he kept fucking up and doing stupid shit constantly. There's a great argument online that says Tony Stark is the greatest villain in the MCU because he created
he was
all
the villain
of the bad
in Age of Ultron. He's the villain of Age of Ultron.
But everyone gives him a pass. It doesn't matter how many movies Iron Man is in, or how many stupid things Tony does, or how arrogant he is. You know, people give him a pass. It's like, well, and at a certain point in time, I think you got to sort of think. Hold on, what do I got here?
See, I don't think he gets a pass to an extent, but at the same time, he learns. Like, the Tony Stark in Endgame is incredibly different from the Tony Stark at the beginning of the MCU. He was basically ready. He recognized how bad he fucked up with Ultron, and he was ready to give it all up. He only came back and started trying to help again because the literal fate of the planet was on the line.
Okay, real quick, I have it straight, guys. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, we're not.
Glad I got out of this.
Yeah.
Did I win?
But yeah, like
yes.
Tony Stark, and I don't know why I couldn't say his name, but Tony Stark gets a character arc throughout the entirety of Phase 1. That tracks. It's but he keeps his ego, yes, but he does learn how to, not get, he does learn how to not keep fucking things up, or what, I guess would be the proper term, but, the ego stays because that's just part of his character. But, yeah, again, like Age of Ultron, Tony Stark directly leads into what he does in Civil War, which directly leads into how he behaves in Endgame. That's ignoring the fact that all this this is a long story. All of this stuff is part of a character arc, a part of growth. So it's again, this is one of those arguments. It just seems like somebody is nitpicking for the sake of nitpicking, so they can write a clickbait headline.
Okay, so you think everything that was done was perfectly logical and fine and not a big deal?
I'm going to say it makes sense within the movie.
It makes sense. It tracks within the world that the movies have created.
Yeah, I would say that Doctor Strange did something incredibly stupid in No Way Home by granting the spell or overestimating herself, whatever. But in this movie, he basically becomes humbled by everything. I feel like this is actual progression from No Way Home, and a recognition of, maybe I shouldn't be messing around with the laws of the multiverse.
I don't agree with that. I don't think he becomes humbled in Doctor Strange 2, because he goes from what happened in No Way Home to literally, even Wong is like, you can't read that. don't read the Necronomicon. It's only going to end bad, and he does it anyway. So I still think you have that
punishment
arrogant...
for that. He gets that third eye. There's a consequence for it. That was again part of the arc of the movie.
But in the mid-credit sequence, he's totally cool with it.
A choice.
In the mid-credit sequence, he's totally cool with the third eye. So I don't know what they're going to do with this third eye.
We don't know that because you literally do not know that. It's probably just he's stuck with it. We have no clue right now. Yeah, we have no clue as of right now how cool he is with this. Like, you literally do not know that.
Okay, so
does he just immediately grab the Darkhold and start reading it at the first chance he gets, or is it he's in a world that is falling apart because there's an incursion, and the Darkhold, recognizing that it's a bad idea to read it, he also recognizes it's the only option available to them?
See, I'm trying to remember, going back to the film already, it's been a few weeks, like, what exactly was the inciting event here? So, the Shumagorath name, who trademarked Shumagorath name that they couldn't do, attacks. He immediately goes to Wanda, right? Because he notices that there's witchcraft symbols all over Shumagorath, and at what point does the Darkhold come into effect? Because
Wanda has the Darkhold from the beginning. Doctor Strange only gets, to my knowledge, again, it's been a few weeks for me too, Doctor Strange only gets the Darkhold when he gets stranded in that destroyed universe without America, and he has to fight evil Doctor Strange, and then it's like, okay, it's just basically me and my ex-girlfriend here alone in this dying world. I either read the Darkhold or I accept that Wanda wins and we die. It's not like he was just jonesing throughout the whole movie, give me that Darkhold, I know I can do it. He recognizes it's a bad idea.
Give me that Darkhold.
Like, he's explicitly trying to not be the Doctor Strange from the Illuminati universe who fucked things up, but he's put in a position where he has no choice. It's read the Darkhold or accept death.
Okay, so you're saying that do you guys have any examples in the MCU in which a hero does something stupid that is not set up within the world that it's telling? Is there any scenario that you guys could think of that any of the heroes in the MCU would do something stupid that would trigger some cataclysmic event that could not be explained away by, oh, they're just arrogant, or, oh, these are the rules of the MCU? Because I feel like this is like a get-out-of-jail free pass with storytelling. They can make heroes do anything dumb. And now, I'm not saying you guys are wrong. I'm just saying that the rule, if you're correct in that the rules that they have established throughout the MCU for 28 movies or however many there is, if a hero does something stupid and causes problems, it can always be explained away by X, Y, and Z based on those rules they set up. I feel like that's bad storytelling. Like, I'm just going to be honest. I feel like if you can just explain away anything stupid, that's a problem inherent with the MCU. Because I don't necessarily want my heroes being dumb.
That is a problem inherent with comic books.
Right, but we're not talking comic books. We're talking about the MCU. The MCU does not have to follow every single thing that happens in a comic book. So there are two separate mediums. So I like, to me, there are certain characters that's inherent, right? Spider-Man, that's the Parker Lux. No matter what Spider-Man does, it always seems to screw things up. That's just inherent to his character in and of itself. It's different from like a Reed Richards, right?
That's a get-out-of-jail-free card, because Doctor Strange's ego is inherent to his character. And thus, he's going to do... See, like, that's circular logic. That's the exact same fucking thing. You're giving Parker a free pass for bad writing.
Right,
Explain
right.
yourself.
No, I'm not saying... I'm not saying that it's I'm not trying to give him a free pass. I'm saying it's been inherent in that character from creation, right? Whereas Reed Richards, that's not the case, as far as I know. Reed Richards, from the very beginning of his inception, was not some super arrogant, cocky, I can do whatever the hell I want sort of thing. That was Doctor Doom's role, right? His mortal enemy. And that's how Reed Richards always got over on him. So it feels like throughout, and again, I'm not a Doctor Strange or Mr. Fantastic, comic scholar, but I don't feel like in the comic books Doctor Strange was from the very beginning always portrayed as this super arrogant, cocky, I will never learn from any mistake I've ever done in the past. So with movies being a completely separate thing here, I feel like, and maybe this is just a problem with this kind of narrative, making comic book sort of storylines, is it's hard to explain what I'm trying to say here, but it feels like we can't ever have a comic book movie where the hero is not intricately involved in how everything gets fucked up. And I feel like that's a limitation, an inherent limitation in the MCU narratives.
I disagree. Like, I'm thinking about Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Hydra is trying to take over S.H.I.E.L.D. and therefore essentially the world and the government. Captain America just kind of stumbles into that. Like, Captain America is in no way, shape, or form responsible for any of the negative things that happen in that movie.
Gosh, it's been so long since I've seen that I have to watch it again. It's not fresh in my mind, but...
Yeah, like, I can't really go into any of this because, like, it's been, like, a lot of these movies, they're one and done kind of things for me. I haven't watched the original, like, the first Doctor Strange, probably not long after it came out, even though I own it, just because it looks neat. But, I haven't rewatched, Age of Ultron, or, Winter Soldier, or, Iron Man 3, or any of that stuff in a while.
And Age of Ultron, obviously, that's Tony Stark's fault, right?
Yeah, Age of Ultron is... I'm willing to justify ego as an excuse for people doing bad things to an extent. Like, I can't justify Age of Ultron. I'm trying to think of, more recent examples, though. What about Thor Ragnarok? Thor, in no way, shape, or form, brought Hela back to Asgard.
Yeah, that was all Odin.
Yeah, I don't know that the argument that the good guys are always somehow responsible for the bad guys holds up.
Yeah, and maybe I'm getting, for example, WandaVision, that's all her fault. She intentionally caused all of that stuff to happen. And I guess now, with Doctor Strange 2, she's dead. Spoiler, allegedly dead. And they turn her full evil.
About the movie.
Yeah, let's... Is there any... Let's get back, because... Actually, no, let's not get back. Because
we're not going to be able to accurately redo the movie from that last, thing. So going into this, a current fan rage is probably the better option.
Yeah, and I actually want to get to a topic that you brought up, Steve, because I think it's very, very interesting. And it relates to Doctor Strange 2 and the Multiverse of Madness. It is one of the big criticisms of the MCU is that there's really no stakes at all, right? And we'll talk the 616 universe, as Doctor Strange 2 has established, much to our chagrin. This is the 616 universe. But the fact that you can kill heroes and characters as long as it's not our main universe. So in this case, right, Reed Richards, Black Bolt, Captain Carter, they all get wasted. And it's awesome, right? That whole scene is cool, watching Professor X get his neck snapped and all that stuff. But it's not the quote-unquote real character, right? So they're never going to, snap Peter Parker's neck in the main MCU storyline, but we could conceivably see 100 Spider-Mans get completely butchered in all these other universes if they start bringing in multiverse stuff. So speak a little to that, because you brought up that idea to me, Steve, and I thought that was kind of interesting. I feel, again, this is a crutch for storytelling, because I think it could be used just as general sort of shock value, like I think it was in Doctor Strange 2. It's like, oh, here's Reed Richards finally, and we're going to watch Wanda just completely murder him, and boom, he's gone. But they'll never do that with the main MCU Reed Richards when he's in there. So how do you feel about that as a storytelling narrative going forward?
So when it comes to comic books, the only thing, when it comes to really any storytelling medium, comics, movies, whatever, the only thing I hate more than time travel is alternate realities, because they are all essentially disposable. It's an alternate reality is just where you take your ideas that you can't get away with in the main reality. So no, I'm hoping, while I think that Phase 4 and potentially Phase 5 and etc. is going to be built around the multiverse, I hope that they quickly tell all their multiverse stories and then the multiverse goes away, because I don't like that. A world needs stakes. I mean, this is a comic book world. I expect the good guys to win more than they lose, but it's still okay for them to lose. It's still okay for some of them to die. But when, you're gonna kill 100 alternate Captain Americas, but the one main Captain America is just good enough to overcome what everyone else didn't, I'm not a fan of that. Not a fan of the disposable alternate universe.
Your thoughts, Ronan?
Pretty much the same. What you were saying about like how they're not like they could bring in an alternate Spider-Man and like snap it or whatever, like kill an alternate Spider-Man.
And that's a big thing in the Spider-Man comics. Morlun and them going through the multiverse and actually killing all of the different Spider people.
Yeah, that's where they got the name Spider-Verse from, wasn't it? Like they introduced the whole Spider-Verse in the comics, and that's where they got the name for the movie.
Yeah.
But that's sort of the thing, like when they came up with the multiverses, or not when they came up with it, when they decided to put it into the movies, is it probably will be like, it probably is going to be a clutch to make sure that like even if a character ages out or doesn't want to do this anymore, like Chris Evans or Robert Downey, there's always going to be another Iron Man out there somewhere that if they want one, they can just pull it out of the hat. And that's that's probably what they'll end up doing, is using the multiverse as that crutch. I would like to hope that what the next few movies like that are coming out, like hopefully Thor Ragnarok has no multiverse shit in it whatsoever. Not Ragnarok, but like that Love and Thunder. Hopefully Love and Thunder doesn't have any multiverse shit in it whatsoever, and we can get another movie or two in that don't go into that before it's like, oh hey, here's the multiverse again, or set something else up.
Well, that would be with Ant-Man, right? With Kang coming in, because Kang the Conqueror. That's the whole thing. Kang seems to be being set up as the big bad villain, and he is all about multiverse and conquering the multiverse, as we saw at the end of Loki season 1. So, I mean, we're going to get a lot more multiverse stuff, and I think eventually that's how the X-Men are going to come in, because if they do set up Kang the Conqueror as, literally going through all these different multiverses and conquering all of them, I think one of these universes will have X-Men, and that's probably how they're going to get X-Men into the main MCU.
Yeah. So, on the long run, no, I don't like it, but that's just how it's gonna. They're going to do that because that is one of the essential rules of comic books, is that no matter how different things get, they always have to stay the same. It is the status quo effect. Like in World War Hulk, like Hulk's war against the Illuminati, he fucking destroys over half of New York City. It is leveled. This is a cataclysmic event that would take decades. Do I know?
I don't know. What do you got?
Well, Ronan's still in. Do I want to call this?
How much is it going to cost? Oh, okay, all in. Okay, no, I'm not going all in. I'm going to
this is dumb.
Oh boy, here we go. In some other multiverse, Steve did not do this.
Yeah, I'm folding right now.
Oh, you're winning, Steve. Pair of 9s versus pair of 10s?
Son of a bitch.
Oh! On the river.
I'm glad I got out of that.
Garbage this game.
I'm so glad I got out of that. I'm so fucking glad.
I am losing all of the money that I usually take from Matt over the last several recordings. Anyways, continue.
So I'd it's the status quo effect of comics. Like I said, the Hulk destroys over half of New York City. That's a cataclysmic thing that in reality would take decades to recover from and fix, but it's literally better. Like 2 issues later, there's no damage to New York. It's the status quo effect, like what Steve was saying. With when the next time, if Wanda isn't dead, she'll come back in another movie. Turns out she's alive, and she's gonna say sorry, and no one's gonna care that she not only enslaved a whole town, but tried to destroy, but tried to, kill, but tried to go through multiverse-shattering events just to get kids back. No one's gonna care.
Yeah,
she's gonna say sorry.
What's interesting to me is in Doctor Strange 2. It's clearly set up that Doctor Strange knows that Wanda committed all of these crimes because they talk about it, and he's like, oh, I can get you back on the lunchbox and blah, blah, blah. But in previous movies, they've also established the Raft, where they stick all of these like super-powered bad guys, who have created crime. It's like, why did Wanda? I feel like Doctor Strange, as soon as that happened, I mean, it's incumbent on the hero, right? And again, maybe this is just a limitation of the storytelling that they can do. But if a superhero enslaves a bunch of people, does all this horrible shit, clearly breaks multiple laws, and should go to jail, why would Doctor Strange, as a hero himself, not go get Wanda or something like, hey, lady, I mean, you gotta serve some time for this.
But she said she's sorry.
Yeah, that's a problem, right?
The stupidest part of Doctor Strange 2 actually happened in WandaVision, where she was just allowed to walk away.
Yeah. Well, she didn't actually walk; she flew. So it's harder to get her.
I would assume that the reason would be is that, like, although Strange doesn't know her that well, like, at all, really shouldn't know her from Adam outside. Like, he is familiar with her through the Infinity Saga. He doesn't know her from Adam. He knows Spider-Man better. So the idea that he would go to bat for Spider-Man would be a little bit different. But he doesn't know who she is.
How does he still remember the events of No Way Home? Because he tells America Chavez when she's like, "Do you have any experience of the multiverse?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." And him and Wong talk about the whole Spider-Man thing in No Way Home. But shouldn't he have forgotten all of it?
I thought you actually explained this to yourself one day, which is you remember, like, it's like you have dementia. You remember everything that happened except for this important bit. So I believe that Doctor Strange.
So he just doesn't say Peter Parker. He just doesn't. He remembers the Spider-Man thing.
I think Spider-Man. He did a favor for Spider-Man, but he doesn't know who Spider-Man is anymore.
Okay, yeah, because I was thinking they were talking a little bit more in depth about it. But yeah, I guess if he doesn't mention Peter Parker in the movie, then
they specifically call him Spider-Man. But that also kind of threw me off of where I was at. I don't remember what I was doing there.
Here, let me talk about something. We've actually barely talked about Doctor Strange 2 this episode. So,
this is actually a better episode than what we lost in the recording, honestly.
But maybe don't title it the Doctor Strange 2 episode, because it's definitely not. But there is something that a common criticism that we've had about the MCU is we never find out what just your random person on the street thinks. We never get any sort of reaction from the randos. The snap happened. Billions of people disappeared, and then 5 years later they came back, and it's like a movie and a half later. That's not a thing anymore. Doctor Strange 2 did something right at the beginning that I greatly enjoyed, which is Doctor Strange is going to his ex-girlfriend's wedding, which has got to be awkward, but then someone comes up to him and is like, Are you sure that you had to turn over the time stone? Because while I was snapped away, basically everyone I cared about, including my cats, died of natural causes. Are you positive there wasn't another way? Like, it's one small instance, and I wish there was more of it, but there's just a little bit of a reminder that, hey, that crazy world-shattering event actually happened, and here is consequences of it that a rando is having to deal with.
That's going to go into too dark a territory, and Doctor Strange 2 was the most violent MCU movie to date, even though it wasn't, all things considered, that violent. But Marvel itself is not. They're not going to go into, because that's going to open up too many dark. That's going to open up too many dark avenues. That just aren't profitable. Which enrages me, because that should forever completely alter the landscape of the planet Earth. Like, you don't just go back to normal from that. There is no fucking normal anymore after that event. But like I said earlier, the status fucking quo effect. Everything, no matter how different it gets, has to go back to fucking normal, and that's just inherent of comic books in general, or at least the superhero ones like DC and Marvel. I can't really speak for Image or any of those other ones that I don't read that much.
There are little things that Marvel puts in, and I hated the villains in Falcon and Winter Soldier. Oh, other than Baron Zemo, I loved Baron Zemo. I thought Baron Zemo should have been the main villain of that whole thing, not these other ones. But what I loved about the villain storylines is that they were just sort of normal people, and they had to acquire this sort of super serum to try to become, stronger, so that, because they were pissed off that, hey, when Thanos snapped all these people out of existence, the world got better, right? It was less populated, which means there was more places for people to live. People moved all over the world, and then when Hulk blipped them all back into existence, all those people who for 5 years had been having a fairly decent life, they all got displaced, and they all became refugees. And I liked that, because that whole show, the villain's motivation was based on, what the fuck, this is not good. Like, our lives were actually better when Thanos snapped everything. In the Hawkeye show, Hawkeye goes into the bathroom and someone scrawled Thanos was right on the urinal and stuff like that. I like those things, because they're showing that, yes, there is a thing, but we don't have like an actual a face to this sort of rage that they're hinting at. So what I would love to see is, I would absolutely love it if that's how they introduce sort of Doctor Doom to this, because I always thought that a cool way that Doctor Doom, because obviously Doctor Doom runs Latveria, the country sort of like in Eastern Europe or whatever, that's his whole thing. What about when Ultron murdered all those people in Sokovia, right? And Zemo was trying to basically destroy the Avengers from inside. That was Zemo's whole thing, right? Because the Avengers basically killed his family, and he was pissed off, and that's how Civil War came about. That's why I think Zemo is one of the great underrated villains in the MCU. I think he's fucking great. But that was a whole movie where storyline, the villain's motivation was, fuck you, heroes. I don't like this. You guys kind of suck. And I hope that we find out when Doctor Doom eventually comes into play that he's sort of like, whether Sokovia sort of morphs into Latveria, and it's Doctor Doom that sort of brings this country back as like this super sort of power. But you see that these individuals they're pissed off at all of these superheroes, because I could see Doctor Doom being a perfect mechanism with which the MCU could put a quote unquote face on everyday sort of regular humans who are pissed off at superheroes, because Doctor Doom in the comics is essentially Iron Man with Doctor Strange's powers, because he's, at one point Doctor Doom was the Sorcerer Supreme, and he's an amazing genius tech billionaire, sort of like Iron Man. So I think you could really utilize Doctor Doom to sort of emphasize this, people are pissed off. And if you brought the X-Men in somehow, it just makes people angrier that all of this stuff is going on, and all of these heroes are causing these cataclysmic problems. Spider-Man Homecoming touched on it a little bit with the Vulture and all of them scavenging all these parts and selling them and trying to make money off of it, because they're losing all their jobs because of Tony Stark and all that. So it's touched on, it's just not as focused as I think we would like to see it. I would like to see just a show from the perspective of some non-superpowered person who's pissed off at all these superheroes.
I mean, I would like that, but
sounds good to me. I'll take it.
Yeah. I don't know what you want us to go for. Like, I'd like that, but my snarky, cynical comment to that is, but then how would things go back to normal afterwards? Because again, the status quo effect, it's gonna have to go back, because they're not attached to like long-term change. But I like your ideas.
Yeah.
That's what we're getting at. But they're probably just gonna say, "Oh, Doctor Doom's just some random terrorist or something like that." I would hope they don't fuck him up. Like every other interpretation of
the
him.
MCU has to get the Fantastic Four right?
They have to.
Right.
they have to.
But
what's so interesting is they have access to all of these amazing villains now. That's the thing, and it's almost like we're impatient, right? We want to see Magneto, and we want to see Doctor Doom, and we want to get like a full Kang the Conqueror, and we want to see Galactus. We want to see I want to see Silver Surfer when he was kind of a bad guy. Like when Silver Surfer first appears, I want him to be the actual Herald of Galactus, and is basically, I want to see him show up in some post-credit sequence on some random planet and basically tell everyone you're all going to die. Galactus is coming to eat you. And that's what happens. Galactus shows up and destroys, and our first interaction with Silver Surfer is, holy shit, is he a bad guy? Now, we know he is not a bad guy, but I want the average MCU person to be like, holy shit. And then that's his character arc. He sort of turns and then eventually helps them defeat Galactus, etc., etc. I want these bad guys, but I don't feel like we're really getting great villains right now in the MCU. There's really no face to all of the stuff that's going on, in my opinion.
I mean, that's a common complaint with like this current phase of Marvel is it doesn't really seem like, it's hard to pin out where it's going. Although I also don't necessarily agree with that complaint because like when the whole cinematic universe was first starting, the only thing you could really tell it was building to was the Avengers.
The Avengers,
That's it. Outside of that, it's like, okay, what are they going to do next? I agree with that, but at the same time, I guess maybe it is a little bit of impatience. It's like, where are they going with this? I'm sure there is a plan for where they're going with this. It's just
yeah, they're just not showing. Like at the end of Shang-Chi, the mid-credit sequence, because neither one of you guys have seen that, right?
I don't care.
No.
Tell me.
Okay. Basically, at the end of it, like, Shang-Chi has these like rings of power, and they find out that they are not from Earth. It's like they're some sort of weird metal that's not from Earth. And in the mid-credit sequence, Wong pulls them into kind of like, I don't know, kind of like an Avengers sort of room, like a headquarters or something. And it's Captain Marvel. It's Bruce Banner. He's not even Hulk. It's Bruce Banner. And they are basically saying that this metal is from it's like a beacon. It is started a beacon into like the deepest part of the universe, and they're trying to figure out why this beacon is now going off. So the use of these rings has caused something to awaken deep in the universe. Now, I always thought, well, that must be Galactus maybe, but that doesn't really track with stuff in the comic books, because why would Galactus care about, Shang-Chi's rings of power? But whatever metal it is comes from deep in the universe, and it's awoken something or alerted something. So I think that might play into what they're doing, but they don't give any real hints as to what that could be.
Pause. I need to end the recording. Stop recording.
What's happening?
He's got to restart the recording, so he can only record
All
1
right,
hour at a time.
continue.
Oh, okay.
So let's wrap this up by sort of our thoughts on Doctor Strange 2. Is there anything within
Why?
Doctor Strange 2? Well, yeah, why? That's good. We talked about a lot of stuff on our Lost episode because of Ronan screwing up.
Sony Entertainment Corporation is what you mean to say.
There's a few things I want to point out. I want to point out that there's a ton of cool stuff. Like, this is action-packed all the way through. Like, it starts with 2 action scenes, and it just sort of never stops. One big highlight that I want to point out is I love that scene with the fight scene towards the end between the 2 Stranges with the musical notes. I thought that was an awesome, really creative way to show a fight scene. I love the music that went along with it. It was great to see Sam Raimi back. There's a lot of Sam Raimi-isms in this. You can really tell that Sam Raimi, even when the Zombie Strange, when he wakes up and stuff, it's straight out of like Army of Darkness, and it just made me giddy. I love seeing it. But overall, like, I really liked Doctor Strange 2. The further I get from it, I can sort of see some little, you could point out, like, this could be misconstrued or this, but I'm generally happy with how it all turned out. I feel like it could have used strangely enough, I think it could have used another 20 minutes. I feel like it went too fast almost. That would be my main criticism. It just kind of flew through all of the stuff. Like, I would have liked to know a little bit more about America Chavez. I would have liked to have gotten a little bit more with Wanda before she just turned straight evil, because I think if you had watched Endgame, the last movie with Wanda, and then you skip the television, maybe you don't have Disney Plus, and you skip all that, you're just a normie, and you go straight to Doctor Strange 2, you're going to be like, why the fuck did she turn evil? She has never been evil. Why is she evil? Well, who are these kids? I think there could have been a little bit more room to breathe and set up with Wanda. I don't think they immediately should have made her like obviously evil right within like the first 10 minutes of the movie. But you know, again, those are nitpicks. Overall, I thought it was fun, and I think the Marvel stuff for me, the movies, I know people are getting really tired of them. At least I see that criticism online. They're kind of over it. I know a friend Jeff, he's like, I'm kind of over this Marvel stuff. But I feel like all the Marvel movies that have been released recently, aside from Eternals, have been really good. Like, I thought Shang-Chi was awesome. I really liked that movie. I loved No Way Home. I thought that was great. I love this movie. And I have no doubt that, you know, Love and Thunder is going to be good because Taika Waititi's doing it. So I feel like Marvel's on kind of like they're hitting home runs recently, but it might be tempered in people's minds because I feel like a lot of the television shows have just been kind of like you know, just kind of like a meh. And people are thinking there's almost too much content here, and you know, maybe that's a side conversation. But is there anything, Steve, that you want to talk about with Doctor Strange that we haven't covered?
One thing, I would say that I don't actually like the Doctor Strange character. I love Benedict Cumberbatch's portrayal of him, but I don't like Doctor Strange. I don't really like any magical characters because there's basically no rules. Their powers are whatever the writer needs them to be in order to get the movie done. And so something that we didn't talk about in either this episode or the last episode was they are literally trying to find a wish-granting book that gives a sorcerer the power to do whatever is needed in the moment. So they are literally trying to give Doctor Strange any power required in order to solve this problem. And when they introduced this, the Book of Ashanti, I think is what they called it.
Yeah,
I groaned. I was like, no, don't end this movie by Doctor Strange getting a magic win button. And then they destroyed it, and Doctor Strange actually had to overcome Wanda, which was just fucking great. Loved it.
Very true. Ronan, anything that you want to discuss when it comes to Doctor Strange 2 that we haven't covered yet?
Well, no, we kind of hit all the bases. The only real complaint that I had with it was that the movie went too fast. You know, it never slowed down. You never really got a chance to, you know, take in and breathe with anything that happened. But yeah, so that was the only real complaint that I had with it. And you know, that could work in certain circumstances. Like last time I referenced Mad Max Fury Road. That movie never fucking stops because it's a chase movie. They are being chased throughout the entirety of it. It can't stop. So, so it works.
Well, technically, Doctor Strange is being chased through this movie constantly.
But it works in that, but it doesn't really necessarily work here. But that was my only complaint, is that I thought it needed to slow down for a little bit.
Okay, so
Top 10 worst chase movies. Last Jedi, number 1, end of list.
I should have used the holdo maneuver right through the multiverse. One thing that I will mention real quick, which was missed opportunities. Now, what I think is interesting about these movies is most people watching them, especially when they have covered comic books and read comic books or watched cartoons and stuff like that, you bring your own set of ideas and creativity to these projects. And I think that is a big reason why a lot of people ultimately get disappointed by these movies, because they're like, oh, Why didn't they just do this? It would have made it so much cooler had they just done this. And there was a moment in this film where that occurred to me while I was watching it. And it was when Doctor Strange and America are basically going through all these different multiverses. You kind of see it a little bit in the trailer as he's sort of falling through these multiverses. And he falls through an animated one. And I was like, why was that not an X-Men the Animated Series moment? Why didn't they just show like the 94 X-Men like looking up as cartoons as they fall through that? That's a missed opportunity. It would have lasted like 3 seconds, and it would have been awesome because it connects. And even in the film itself, when Professor X shows up, they do the X-Men animated theme. Da-na-na-na-na-na. So they're already throwing out that kind of nod to the fans. So why not just go all the way and show that in there? But those are minor things, and maybe that'll be a greater discussion for another time. As to are these films so difficult for people to get into sometimes because we bring our own creative thoughts? We're like, you could have done this better. Why didn't you just have like a creative consultant on this that would have said, no, do this, 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 and this, and it would have been 1,000 times better, and you would have pleased people way more. These are supposed to entertain people. That's the entire point of these movies, is to make people entertained, and why would you not want to make it the most entertaining thing you possibly could, So, again, that's a nitpick. I don't know if I'd call it a criticism of the movie itself, but just kind of like, missed opportunities. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening to another episode of Two Mats, One Steve. We'll be back. What do we got on tap, Ronan? What's coming up?
Let's see here. We have we got to talk about some stupid show with a guy in the moon. And that there's
guy who talks to himself.
And then you're going to punish us by making us watch more Star Wars at some point
next week, man. Obi-Wan next week, next Friday.
Which, at the very least, I admit I like Obi-Wan as a character. He was the only good thing that came out of those prequel movies. But the last few Boba Fett just really took it out of me. I just don't care anymore.
Okay, and of course we'll be covering Thor and all that stuff when it comes out. And we have an Alien episode.
Because I would argue we still haven't covered Doctor Strange 2.
What else do you want to talk about it? Like, is there anything... I asked, is there anything you'd want to cover in this that we haven't already sort of discussed?
Nope. Guess not. We're done.
Yeah, see?
What I can do, Steve, what I'll do is I'll do a little stinger here at the end of this episode. So I still have all of your comments from Doctor Strange 2 and my comments from Doctor Strange 2 from the lost episode. I just don't have Ronan's. So
see, I think you should send that audio to Ronan and have him listen and have him ADR what he thinks he said in response to our question.
That's a good idea, Ronan. Ronan, I'll do that, and then you can just add whatever comments you want in the dead space in between them. But so thanks for listening, everybody. Check out all the other shows on Outpost Unknown, and you can email us at outpostunknown@gmail.com or leave a comment. Were we on base? Were we off base? We will address it on a future show. With that, take care. Okay, so I'm going to kill this broadcast.